Unlike some folks who have to live in the West End, I chose to live in the West End. The reason that I got involved with CAB is because I love my community.
As someone who majored in public health, I see the importance of vaccines. I know for a lot of people, they think public health is just healthcare, but it's actually involving the community.
I think the main thing is education. There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. Also, you have a lot of people in this community who don't have a relationship with their healthcare professional.
I'm hoping that we can let people know that, your health comes first and that there are people there who care about you and want to fight for your benefit.
Go to the website. We got tons of information for you.
Vaccines, going to the doctor, these things are for their benefit. And I just want to advocate for them to let them know, hey, I'm always on your side. You have someone that's willing to speak out for you if you feel like you don't have anyone in your corner.
Welcome back to those of you who are watching Conversations with Cab. Again, I am your host, Asiana. Last week, we talked a lot about vaccinations and how important it is to educate yourself on getting vaccinated. This week, we're talking about a very important topic. COVID-19 is back. However, we're going to speak about how mental health has been impacted by COVID-19. But first, I would like to introduce a special guest that will be speaking with us today.
Hello, my name is Alante Gaines, and I'm a clinical mental health counselor. Right now, I work under Sims Counseling and Consulting, where I see a wide range of clients, men, women, children, the whole range from any age and any mental health issue that you might have.
So how long have you been practicing, and what made you want to be a mental health therapist?
Well, I've been practicing for about 2 years now. And really what made me, I kind of stumbled upon being a therapist. I went into my career. I was supposed to be a social worker, and I did it for a little while, and then I got there and realized this is not the type of help that I want to give. I remember, I have a few reasons of how I became a therapist. That was one. I knew that I didn't want to do social work anymore, but I really got into mental health when I had my first son. And I went through postpartum depression, and I had no idea what it was. After doing my own research, it was like, oh, more people, more women need to know about this. And it became a passion of mine, and it just kind of followed that type of way. After I seen that I didn't want to be a social worker anymore, I had a passion for the awareness of mental health, I guess, at that time, and it just kind of connected me in that way.
Yes, ma'am. So to kind of take a step back, for those who are watching who don't understand what mental health is or even the definition, can you start by defining what mental health is and what that looks like in our everyday communities?
Absolutely. So mental health is one of those things that people don't really talk a lot about. Well, they didn't. When I was growing up, I had no idea, didn't know what it was. It's one of those things that you don't tap into it until something happens to you, type of thing. But mental health deals with all of our life circumstances, our environment, our nature, our nurture, things that influence the way that we think, influence the way we perceive certain situations. It dictates our mood. It dictates all these different things. Some would say like chemical imbalances. Some would say the way our mind works. But all of it has to do with, I feel like, the nature and nurture of things and how we take information in and relay them or perceive them. I would say that some of the some of the common mental health issues that we see or hear about is anxiety, depression, PTSD, things of that sort. And, to define those, anxiety is one of those, they have symptoms of fear. Fear of the unknown, that fear of is really a fear invoked. So having a hard time figuring things out because you're afraid of the next steps and how that might look like, or being anxious about social anxiety is one of the things. So being anxious about being around other people or speaking, fear of judgment, all these different things that and it has a lot of different symptoms. So we'll have like sweaty palms or elevated heart rate or a lot of people, I've heard, this is a new one, I've heard people talking about they have trouble eating and things like that. But anxiety pretty much restricts us a little bit, limits us from the things that we want to do because of that fear factor. PTSD is one that is probably most common since COVID, because the PTSD is near-death experiences. You have to experience near-death experience or witness death experiences. So being someone that was in COVID or had to witness a loved one, losing their life because of it, that can cause PTSD, also inflicted as a fear type of thing. The depression that comes with it, maybe you lost a loved one during COVID and you wasn't able to be with them, be around them as they on their last days or anything of that. Did I answer that question?
Yes, ma'am. So I thank you for, explaining that, because a lot of people just think mental health is not true, which are a lot of myths, or mental health is just, a very small issue, but the mind plays a huge role in how the body functions. Would you agree?
Yes, I do.
So now that we know the definition of what mental health is, I would like to ask you, in your opinion, has COVID impacted people's mental health after and before COVID, or how did that kind of adjust the way people thought?
Oh, absolutely. Even just the way we eat, I would say. So before, I feel like we were very trusting with restaurants and going to certain places. We touch a lot. You didn't realize how much you touch people, didn't realize how many, how much being 6 feet apart really matters. You didn't realize how much people sneeze and it gets everywhere, or the cough, or whatever the case may be. But afterwards, I also think that's a fear-inflicted type of thing. So because of that fear, you see people with endless hand sanitizer. It's everywhere. You see people a lot more cautious. I still see people with masks on these days as well. So I feel like beforehand we was like a lot more trusting with the way we interact, the way we touch, the way we do things. And now people are a lot more cautious than they were before. Even I remember we were, I think it was one of my nieces or nephew's birthday. And we put candles on the cake and we blow it out. That's usually the norm. But this time we were all like, whoa, wait a minute, don't blow, please don't blow all your breath and your germs on it. And it's like those things that was the norm. I feel like COVID, the pandemic, made those things relevant again. I made it like right in our face to the point where we second guess the way we do things these days. So
as we know, COVID was a huge adjustment for everybody in the world, not just the U.S.
Yes.
What would you say specifically during COVID impacted people's mental health? Was it isolation? Was it not being able to be with their loved ones? Can you kind of explain the things that you saw?
I believe the biggest one was social isolation, being away from, the norm of how you socially interact with people. On Sundays, most people go to the family member's house and eat. I think the biggest impact, because I feel like we live in a society where we feel like we don't need people. But I feel like COVID highlighted that a lot, because we actually do need people. When you are separated from people, being able to talk and be able to have a good time and laugh. Laughter is a good healer of mental health, I feel like. And when that's taken away from us, you're able to just sit with your thoughts and sit with everything that's going on. When you're able to be social for that little bit of time and that little bit of a moment, you're able to forget about life stressors. You're able to forget about what's going on, and you're able to just live in that moment. But taking that away from us, and now we're isolated. You're having to sit with your emotions, sit with your feelings, sit with your thoughts, sit with those fears that COVID has brought around. And now I'm sure we all have done it, where we sit in our own thoughts, and now we're down this whole spiral of a rabbit hole of things. And that is a breeder for depression. It's a breeder for anxiety, for all those things that you wouldn't you probably dealt with, but not to that extent before COVID happened.
And so would you say economically that affected people's mental health? Because I know during COVID, a lot of businesses were shut down. A lot of people couldn't financially provide for their families. How did that impact people's mental health, would you say?
Oh, I feel like that was one of the biggest parts of COVID that impacted everybody's life. Because if you think about it, as soon as they told us about the pandemic, everybody went out and started buying stuff, buying toilet paper, food, and all that. And imagine if you're a family that is not as well off as everybody else, they could go and just buy. We already have our money set out. I was raised in a single mom home, so I know how the money went. she had, this was for food, this was for this was for that, and any inconvenience would mess up everything we had going on. So thinking about being a family that that was probably less than in the economic realm of things, that you might not have been able to provide for your family the way everybody thought you should have, buying all the food, buying all the appliances, necessities, more than what we needed to, and that I feel like that inflicted fear. So with that fear, you're anxious because you don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know how long this is going to take. How long is the pandemic going to be here? How long are we going to go out and buy everything on the shelf? So that that economic stress of needing to go and get all these things just so you could be prepared, I guess, in a sense. I feel like that put a big stress on people and their families, because what if you wasn't able to provide all those things at that time?
Yes. So we know economically people struggled. COVID played a huge role on the mental health of the U.S., but we'll be back with another segment to continue. Thank you.
Unlike some folks who have to live in the West End, I chose to live in the West End. The reason that I got involved with CAB is because I love my community.
As someone who majored in public health, I see the importance of vaccines. I know for a lot of people, they think public health is just healthcare, but it's actually involving the community.
I think the main thing is education. There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. Also, you have a lot of people in this community who don't have a relationship with their healthcare professional.
I'm hoping that we can let people know that, your health comes first, and that there are people there who care about you and want to fight for your benefit.
Go to the website. We got tons of information for you.
Vaccines, going to the doctor, these things are for their benefit, and I just want to advocate for them to let them know, hey, I'm always on your side. You have someone that's willing to speak out for you if you feel like you don't have anyone in your corner.
My name is Regina Ficarico. I am currently a paramedic for St. Matthew's Fire and EMS. I was a brand new paramedic at the start of the pandemic. Our hospital systems were just not prepared for the sheer volume of sick people that we had. The vaccine helped a lot with severity of illness. Anybody that I've talked to that have had COVID pre-vaccine and post-vaccine, it was a lot easier to deal with, like the days were shorter. I really push forward for patient advocacy. Every person that I come across, I am going to treat you as a close friend or a family member. There's a lot of fear of healthcare, especially Black and brown individuals have had things put against them. I do the best that I can to alleviate some of those fears. While they're here with me, I'm going to take care of them, and I'm going to take them to a place that's going to also take care of them best I can.
I hope those of you are still watching Conversations with Cab, because we have so much more to talk about. To touch a little bit back on the COVID-19 conversation, how did you personally feel when COVID hit?
Personally, I was afraid, just like everybody else. I was fearful. I didn't know what to believe, what to, hop on, what to do. It was very scary because I was living with my mom at the time, with me and my 2 children and my husband. And you have to deal with people that don't believe what's being told. And then if I'm a believer, it's like that clash of, can you wash your hands when you come in the house? Can you be careful where you're going? Can you get some hand sanitizer? My mom, she's a older woman, so that generation of nothing's gonna make me fearful, nothing's gonna put me in the house, all those things. So she was still out going socializing, and it was making me so nervous because 1, she's older. She has a heart condition, and 2, I didn't want her to bring anything into the home with my children. I didn't know how it was going to affect my kids if they were to catch something like that. Didn't know how it was going to affect me and my family. So I was very scared. I was very fearful of the outcome, how long this was going to be, what it looked like. So it's very scary for me.
And we talked a lot about that last episode when we were educating people on vaccinations. People were, COVID hit them worse when they had pre-existing health conditions.
Yeah.
And that was a huge reason why people were pushing people to get vaccinated, is because if you had COVID and a pre-existing health condition, this vaccination could help prevent, COVID from becoming worse. So just in your personal opinion as well, did you struggle with mental health issues after COVID, or did any of your family members struggle?
I I did not struggle as bad. I struggled with the part of coming out of isolation because I'm more of a homebody. So during the isolation, I was like, yes, don't have to have any no company at my house. I don't have to decline plans and things like that. But for me, trying to adjust, getting back into regular scheduled programming, getting back into regular life, that was hard. But a lot of people, like our older family members, it hit them pretty tough because I had family members we would visit often. We would take them food often, and now it went from that to I have to leave your food on the porch, and that disconnection of being able to touch, talk, and just feel your loved ones was kind of tough. So they dealt with that. My grandmother actually dealt with that for a little while, but I think she's okay now. It just took a while. It took a long time to adjust and get back.
And so according to the CDC, the first case of COVID hit Washington, which was in the US in 2019. And so now we're still dealing a little bit with COVID. However, it has died down.
Yeah.
And now we're dealing with the mental health and the after effects of COVID. What would you say would be some good coping strategies or good recommendations for people to deal with their mental health now that COVID is kind of coming to an end?
Today, I would still recommend, reaching out to professional help, getting a therapist that can help you guide you through this tough time, but also be a non-biased factor in your healing process to help you to build that trust, to feel that confidence, to be able to get to the other side. And of course, some people are not wanting to see therapists, or they still have that fear or that mistrust when it comes to us, which I get it. Some coping strategies that we can use, and I do get these coping strategies in my therapy sessions. So. And they link with the things that I'm telling you. So you can use these coping strategies for a while, but you still need the guidance of your therapist, someone that you can talk to, especially when maybe the coping mechanisms don't work anymore. But you do need the coping mechanisms and the therapist to go hand in hand. So I can give you guys, did you want some coping mechanisms?
Please.
So one of the first coping mechanisms that I love is one for distress, or even people that suffer from anxiety. So we can always bring our anxieties back down, or help or cope with our anxieties by texture. So if you are a person that deals with anxiety after the pandemic, or because of COVID, or just because you have anxiety, having like a stone or a rock, very smooth rock, nothing too bumpy, and having it in your pocket, and having the ability to just rub it and mess with it or focus on it while you're in a place of distress or in a place of anxiousness or anxiety. Also, if you like a keychain that has different textures on it, that will help as well. But the thing is, just the stimulation from the textures is what help us bring us back to the here and now. One of my other favorites is anxiety technique, and it's called a 5-finger technique. And in this technique, it also does the same thing, stimulates your senses, kind of just waking them up, recharging them, and getting them back to the here and now, where you need to be. Because with anxiety, it takes us to a place of worry, and we focus directly on that. So if we can distract our thoughts and distract our feelings for a second and bring us back, it can get us back down, regulate our heart rate, and get us into where we want to be, rather than where we always say, get us in a place to where we can control our mental health and not let it control us, pretty much. So with this technique, you take the palm of your hand and your index finger, and you follow the common, the tracing of your finger. But not just that, as you go up, you breathe in, and as you're going down, you breathe out. And you see how you're like stimulating your fingers. That sensation is what recharges your senses and bring you back down to the here and now. And you should do that long enough to feel a common sensation over your body, and you should be able to relax and get back to what you were doing. Another coping mechanism I like to use is having a set routine, whether it's a morning routine, a night routine. But if you're an anxious person, if you're someone that gets overwhelmed easily or overstimulated, people with anxiety, we have to know what's going to happen next. We have to be in the know of things, because if not, we get anxious of the unknown, pretty much. So setting a routine in the morning where you can set the tone for your day, regulate your emotions, manage your feelings before your day gets started. I like to do that. And in that we implement, meditation or all those good things that make us feel good. Self-care is a big one, doing what makes us feel good. And everybody always thinks we have to go and get a massage and we have to pay for things. But self-care means let me shut off everything, my phone, the TV, and just take a moment to myself. A bubble bath after work, things that make us feel good, we pour out all day long to our workplace, to our kids, our spouse, and everybody. And we leave ourselves with nothing usually, or we put ourselves on the back burner. And that's a ground for anxiety, depression, stress, because we're not meeting our own needs, if that makes sense. And then I'll give you one more because I feel like I'm being long-winded. A grounding technique as to bring you back to the here and now as well. And in this technique, you can do this wherever you are. I like this one because you could be at your desk, you could be wherever, and partake in this. And in this technique, you use your 5 senses, sight, smell, touch, taste, feel. And in those, the first one, so you'll focus on whatever's in the room, whatever you can see. You identify it and acknowledge it. So I have plants around, so I acknowledge the plants. I probably need to water those plants. They look really nice, or whatever the case may be. And you go all the way through your 5 senses and acknowledging what they are.
So I thank you for, allowing and educating people on tips and coping strategies that you can use to help control your mental health, or at least get to an equilibrium to where you can find help or get back to, an easy maintenance routine.
Yes.
But we'll be back with another segment shortly. Thank you for watching.
Unlike some folks who have to live in the West End, I chose to live in the West End. The reason that I got involved with CAB is because I love my community.
As someone who majored in public health, I see the importance of vaccines. I know for a lot of people, they think public health is just healthcare, but it's actually involving the community.
I think the main thing is education. There's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of conspiracy theories. Also, you have a lot of people in this community who don't have a relationship with their healthcare professional.
I'm hoping that we can let people know that, your health comes first and that there are people there who care about you and want to fight for your benefit.
Go to the website. We got tons of information for you.
Vaccines, going to the doctor, these things are for their benefit. And I just want to advocate for them to let them know, hey, I'm always on your side. You have someone that's willing to speak out for you if you feel like you don't have anyone in your corner.
My name is Dr. Crystal Narcisse. I specialize in internal medicine and pediatrics at Norton Healthcare. In 2020, with the pandemic, because the hospital was full with patients with COVID, other patients were having delayed treatment because it exceeded our capacity. I never, ever want to go back there. The tides really turned when the COVID vaccine came out. The number of people having to go to the ER, the number of people actually having to be admitted to the hospital, you saw those numbers plummet. I was weary about the COVID vaccine at first, but I said to myself, if I can take a vaccine that'll help me to be able to keep doing my job to help people, I'm willing to do that. I don't take being a doctor lightly. I'm not going to tell you to do something I'm not going to do. I want you to be able to know that I have your best interests at heart. If I make sure that you're healthy, then I'm helping not just you, but generations after you.
Welcome back to the last segment of us talking about how mental health has been impacted by COVID-19. So I just want to touch base or go a little bit deeper on the importance or how important it is for you to really seek help after COVID when you notice that you're having mental health issues.
I think it's very important because we try to, I'm a victim of it as well. I try to therapize myself. I try to help myself a little bit. And as much as we can do that to an extent, we need that extra guidance, that extra support, that extra non-biasness that can help us see that we're not the only ones dealing with this, but also you're not alone and there's no judgment to that. A lot of times we're hesitant to reach out for help because of what we think other people might say or how people might feel or might perceive us. But getting help is the best thing you can do rather than, trying to fix it on your own or not saying anything at all, because it can turn into a detrimental situation, especially sitting with your thoughts and not having anyone affirm those or say, those are valid points. Those are valid feelings. A lot of times we don't feel validated. So that will be a thing that keeps us away from seeking help. But to feel those feelings of validation, to be, to say you're not alone, to feel that and to know that other people go through the same thing, and to get that endless support, I think that's gold. And I think we all deserve to get that same help and support.
So what would you say getting help, how does it positively impact those after COVID who are struggling with mental health issues? Because we know a lot of people will say, oh, therapy doesn't do anything. Therapy doesn't help me. It won't help me. It's just somebody who can't understand my problems. How would you combat that?
Well, first of all, you can't do anything and show up and expect to just be fixed or be healed. It's a whole process of it. I feel like I'm the guide and you do everything else. Everybody's like, thank you, you helped me so much. I'm like, I've done nothing but just, guide you and tell you, to give you an understanding of what it is. And I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to seeking help and the importance of it, because you need to understand why you have these symptoms. And when you understand why something is happening to you, you can use the resource and the knowledge that you got from it to get in front of it, to make a difference with it. And I feel like that's the biggest part, just being aware, that awareness of it, of saying, okay, something's not right here. Let me try to get some help. And then the knowledge that comes with it, and then maybe you going to therapy and sharing your experience with someone else can help another person. So it becomes a whole trickling effect of everyone getting the help that they need and the help that they deserve. But the importance of going to get the help when you notice that there is a change or a shift in your mood and you don't understand it, it'll be beneficial to understand why you're going through what you're going through and have someone to validate all of those feelings and emotions that you're going through.
So what would be some of those, what we'd say red flags that people can kind of pinpoint to say, okay, it's time for me to get help, whether that be a change in mood, or is there anything else that, people might experience to where it's like, okay, I need to go get that help?
Oh, absolutely. Irritability is a big one because we suppress. If we're working class, those people that work, and we don't have time to be in our feelings and things like that. So we suppress. And then with suppression comes irritability, depression, anxiety, and all these things. People, if you have trouble sleeping at night, getting to sleep or staying asleep, you have a lot of interrupted sleep. That's a big thing. Saying that you have behaviors that are popping up that you usually wouldn't partake in, or thought processes that you usually might not even think about. And you're like, well, where did that come from? It could possibly be something there in that place. Red flags to where maybe you have a low mood and you're having trouble, you have no motivation, you're having trouble getting started when usually you're a self-starter. Having feelings of anger and you don't know where they're coming from, those feelings that you can't really define, but they're sitting there. Those are a lot of the red flags of, okay, something's happening here, let me see what's going on, or let me go and ask somebody for some help. But it's usually the irregularness of it. I'm usually a nice person, but today I'm really angry, or I'm explosive, or those type of things. It's the abnormalcies. That's a word.
And another thing that a lot of people don't talk about, a change in eating, like a lack of appetite.
Yes.
Or overeating. And I'm not saying just one day you want to binge on some food, but excessive eating, the lack of eating, and also like an uncontrollable emotions. Like some people might have no emotion and they're typically emotional, or they're excessively emotional, and they're typically not like that.
Yes.
So I thank you for clarifying those red flags. And I kind of want to, guide our way into talking about men and shining some light on men. As we know, a lot of times men don't speak up on how they feel or even try to go to get help. We know women are usually in a quick rush to get that help. So do you want to kind of touch base on how COVID's affected men's mental health and how that area has changed?
Oh, definitely. I'm glad that you even brought that up, because I feel like men, they don't get the shine, or not even the shine, but no one talks about their needs enough, especially for them to be provider, father, and all these different hats that they wear. But we don't talk about what they need in any aspect, for that matter. But I could see how a man in a place of in COVID can feel like they might be letting their family down by not having the resources and the money they need to provide during that time. It could have been a difficult time to pay bills. And if you're the man of the house, the provider of the house, everybody's looking at you to make a move, make a change, make something shake, and you don't have it. So that I guess the drive that might come with men, the motivation that comes with them, it could have been, lessened or deteriorated a little bit because of COVID, and being, I guess what's the word? Incapable, that's not really the word, but you are helpless, I guess. You're the man, your kids look at you, your wife look at you, everybody looks at you to rescue them, and this was something that it was completely out of their hands, out of all of our hands, to where we don't know what to do. You don't know what to do. So I could see how that can put a lot of pressure on men, put a lot of stress on them, and not knowing how long will we be in this situation as providers. So, yeah.
So would you say men are now speaking out more about their mental health? Because for instance, a very common celebrity, popular celebrity that we may know, Kanye West, I know over the years he's honestly spoken very freely about his mental health issues. And we even, as being outsiders, have seen some of his behavior. So would you say men are starting to open up, are starting to reach for that help that they need in regarding to their mental health?
That's a good question. I have seen a lot more men clients. I will say that. I don't hear a lot of men speaking up as much. Maybe they do it secretly and just come to therapy, but I don't hear them speaking about it as much. I hear a lot of women, we're the ones like, hey man, you need to come to therapy, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I love Kanye West just for the rawness of what he exhibits and lets people know, like, yeah, I'm a celebrity, but I still go through these things as well, and shining that light that men have the same emotions and feelings that us women do and anybody else does. And for them to be able to have an outlet and to say, I'm not okay, I think is a great thing for them. But I feel like the stigma that they put on men to be strong and to not show emotion is what is out here in society, what makes it probably hard for men to do so. But I don't hear too much. I hear inquiries about, do you know any men therapists and things like that? So I think it's a thing that's out there, but it's probably done in private.
So what would be a very good piece of advice to those men out there, no matter your race, your color, your financial status, that you would give to them in regards to seeking help? What would be like a very good piece of advice that they can take with them and maybe carry with them?
I would mainly just say that, you're human too. Even though your kids and your wife and your family might look at you as Superman, and you are Superman. So for Superman to continue to fulfill his duties, we need you to be as healthy as possible, and not just in the physical, but in the mental. And knowing that you're not alone. All of y'all probably think the same thing, feel the same thing because of the same pressures that are there. But it's very imperative, if you're going to lead a family, that you are in a good headspace and a good mental place, so that you can do that effectively and still be seen. A lot of people see it as weakness for men to express. And I would say that, is it weakness to express, or is it more so weakness for you not to express? Because when you start, it's easier to say, I'm gonna hold this all in. I'm not gonna tell anybody how I feel. And then dad or husband or brother, they're acting all weird, and you're like, what's going on? Well, you've been suppressing all this. You've been suppressing everything that you had going on. So I think just being able to express and say that you need help is just as bad as everybody else does.
So before we close out this episode, can you please share the fact that you have in regards to men and their mental health?
Yes, I had a statistic here that I wanted to share, and I feel like this is evident because of the stigma that men are not supposed to express. They're not supposed to be in touch and in tune with their feelings, so they hold it all inside. But I have this statistic that says that since the 1950s, typically males die from suicide 3 to 5 times more often than females. And if you think about all the pressures that men have on them, you can understand why, which is the biggest reason why our men need support just as bad as everyone else.
So as you can see, mental health is very important in addressing your mental health, especially after COVID. We've talked about certain coping mechanisms that can help you get through your mental health, but you can also reach out to your provider, get a list of therapists. Most insurances, or some insurances, will even help you pay for therapy. And I thank our guests for, educating us on mental health and how that's affected people after COVID. For more resources, please go to the website www.westlouisvillecab.com. Until next time, thank you for watching.